Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi there.
Going.
Good
So
morning.
we're waiting for one more
Good morning.
attendee. So Alexandra, do you want to start with Jose and Rigoberto, and I'll call Michael real quick?
Okay. I don't think we're gonna start actually talking for.
Okay. Yeah. We're waiting for one more panelist, as you can see, because we have the three. So we'll be starting up in a couple minutes.
Yes. Go ahead and call, and I'm just gonna. We have people coming in. Yeah, go ahead.
I just sent Angel a note on Michael, so he can call him as well.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Well, I apologize for being a little bit late. It's 12:03. We are still waiting for our third artist. I just wanted to welcome all of you. I'm so happy to see so many attendees, so many people visiting us virtually on this beautiful Friday afternoon. So I'm really happy that I can see all of you. I think. Okay, here we go, Michael. Great.
Yeah,
Hey.
Michael.
There you go.
Hello.
Yeah, I got lost there for a minute.
Everybody does.
Good.
Everybody does.
Only
This stuff
3
is real
minutes.
confusing.
Hi from Toronto, Canada. Hi, Laura. Welcome. I just saw a message on chat. Yeah, so
hi,
just
Laura.
quick. I think that so many months into the pandemic, we probably all have Zoom pretty much figured out, but just so you all know, there is a chat feature, so feel free to type a message. I think you can message either all panelists or just panelists and attendees, so feel free to use that chat option. We're gonna have time for questions towards the end of the webinar. Feel free to send questions throughout the entire hour. You can just write the questions down. Is there anything else that we should talk about before we start?
No. So I just wanted to go over like basic formatting. So we were going to introduce ourselves. We were going to basically allow the artists to introduce themselves, and then we were just going to kind of talk about their artwork and careers and things like that for about the next 55-ish minutes. Like Alexandra said, we have the chat feature. So if you have questions, feel free to post them in there. We'll ask them towards the end. And then this is being recorded, so it'll be available later if you want to share this with any friends, relatives, anybody you think that might be interested. Okay, so to start off, my name is Daniel Bradfield. I'm the oral historian at the Orange County Regional History Center, which is the institution that's hosting this webinar panel. And my colleague is?
Alexandra Chicharron Floro. I am an oral history archivist, also at the same institution, the Orange County Regional History Center here in Orlando.
Okay, so we're going to start off going in alphabetical order, and I realized too that it's alphabetical. It works either first name or last name. So we're going to start off with Jose Feliciano. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hey, good morning. My name is Jose Feliciano with an M in the middle. Jose Miguel. Never use it.
Okay, and then Michael, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Michael Irizarry, self-taught artist. I don't know what else to say.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and Rigoberto.
I'm Rigoberto Torres, and I grew up in New York. Simple as that.
Okay.
Hey, homie.
So what I thought could be a good idea to start is starting with some of your artwork. So maybe if we could, you could kind of talk about your pieces, what inspired this particular piece. So I talked beforehand to everybody and picked one out. So we're going to start off again with Jose, and we're going to talk about this piece, Sembramos.
Oh, wow, beautiful.
This I was inspired by the Hurricane Maria that hit Puerto Rico in September of 2017. I coming from a family that were farmers, and I had heard my grandfather speak quite often about the fact that when the big ones hit, after the hurricanes, the ground for some reason became very fertile. And there was an incident that he mentioned that all of a sudden they had calabaza growing everywhere and corn. So they were able to take people into the barn, families who lost their homes, and they ate calabaza and corn for the longest time, but they were fed. My first impression was the fact that the fertile soil on the island grows a lot of produce that can be used. Unfortunately, with the modern era and the times that we're living in, it was a lot difficult. And it's always, the farmers always thrive. There's something about the fact that if they have a plot of land, something that they can put back into the ground. And so I was inspired that to this painting, with sembramos, we sow, we go back into the soil because that's what we have. And it was very disastrous for the island. And so that was my impression. It was a very painful thing, but I had to look at my people and look at the positive side of this terrible, tragic situation.
It's a really beautiful piece. So
Thank you.
next we're going to talk about.
If I may interrupt for just a second, because I
Mhm.
feel like I'm pretty sure everybody already knows because you signed up for the event, but I think we owe some introduction. All the artists that we have a pleasure to talk to with today belong to the group Keepers of Heritage. It's a Puerto Rican Arts diaspora group. So we're all located here in Central Florida. As Rigoberto mentioned, he grew up in New York. So, you know, amazing life stories. We have a full oral history interviews with each of the artists. But we all ended up here in Central Florida. So right now we're located here, but then the art, some stories that we may talk about today relate to either Puerto Rico or different parts of the country.
Yeah, that's a great introduction. And I think all three of you lived in New York, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you guys moved down here in like the early to mid 2000s, pretty mostly?
Well,
Yeah,
I got
98.
here. Oh, go ahead.
No, 98, I moved down here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I've been here several times in the 80s, 90s, and then finally come help my mom just recently in 2011, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, so
you know the saying that all the roads lead to Rome. So we have our own Florida version of it. All the roads lead to Central Florida, but all the different inspirations for art, they really get created throughout the lifetime, and you know it just happens all the way from different places. So, yeah.
okay. So I'm going to continue on with Michael's piece. This is numero 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So could you talk a little about it, what inspired it, how, you know, what it means to you, things like that?
Well, it's inspired from the corruptness that we have in society. And being Hispanic, I took it all the way back to the Spanish artists of Europe, and this is based like looking like Christ with the disciples, or you know, Last Supper.
The Last
type.
Supper.
Yeah. So being from New York and traveling all over the country, I get a sense that there's a lot of things that are corrupt, and these people who are in charge somehow represent that corruptness, and then we have to deal with it. So it's not 12 people, there's 11 people, because 11 is an incomplete number. So it shows the incompleteness of what they're trying to get across. And then you got all these little symbols that give a message as far as to what kind of person they are. Like a pumpkin head is is somebody who's hollow on the inside, has nothing. You know, and that came from the Romans, which is Latin. So all of my paintings have a meaning towards how society is and how we fit in or how they treat us. But I also use my heritage, taking back symbols, because before there was language, there was symbols, and there was paintings. So every one of these little symbols is a universal symbol that people will recognize eventually. And it's just like commentary on everyday things that we go through.
I have a question.
Like that little clock, for instance,
Mhm.
it's number 11, hasn't reached 12, so it's incomplete. A book that's supposed to give knowledge has a bolt on it, so it doesn't open up. There's no knowledge being given out. Then you have all these little figures of a guy with a teapot on his head. It's a religious figure because they're always pouring libations. You know, things like that nature.
I have one question because I've seen this figure appear in your art
Oh,
before. The blackened
yeah.
figure in the back left-hand corner, like the wide-brimmed hat, but you can't see his face.
You look at his hat, he's got two faces facing out, which is a Latin symbol for welcome you in and welcome as you go. And the people that usually do that, to welcome you in this crowd, I represent this figure as the lawyers and the people who make the law. And they're always in the background, always sneaky, because if you don't understand the law, you're screwed. So they're always like in the back somewhere.
Interesting. Okay.
Of course, you got the military guy all crippled and everything with an upside down flag, which symbolizes what? Countries in stress.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Okay. And then lastly, I have Rigoberto, and I'm not sure, but I think you might be in front of this piece. This is a sculpture you did of Michael Hall.
Yes.
Yeah, local, he was a Tuskegee Airman, you know, a local hero. So if you could talk about this piece and maybe kind of generally about how you would do like an individual sculpture of a person like this.
Well, when I met Mr. Hall through David and also Peter, we kind of got together just to do the face part, you know, and he says, I said to them, if he could do the face, he could do the rest of the body. And what happened was that he was great. He was more energized than us, you know. We were scared that he would not do it. We was kind of unsure about things because of his age, you know, 92 when we did it. He was more brave than we were, you know. So after we did the face, Peter said, we would like to do something like, you know, airman, something that makes sense. And then I saw him with the, you know, the suit, the red suit and all that kind of stuff. I said, why we don't do it just the way he is right now, standing with his hat, you know, the group all red, you know, dressed in red and black. And I said, wow. And we set it up for next 2 weeks. And then we set up this, in the school, we set up this big table. And the idea was to lie down completely and use the bandages. We had extra shoes, extra suit. We put them with a pair of pants on, and everything was cut with tape behind him. And the good thing about it was that he was kind of quiet, lying down and talking to everybody. And we were working on the mold making process, and Peter was there. Everybody was around, hoping that nothing goes wrong. We had volunteer helping us. The thing about it was that he was cool. He was nice, relaxed, and we did the whole body part, and then I had to put it together in my garage. I made the back and the back of the pair pants separate, so we could lift them up without jackets, pair pants, everything stripped completely. He was, you know, not naked. He had a pair pants on the bottom also, but to be able to do him completely, it was part of him being who he is. He was he was in the army, World War II. He's brave enough to be able to do this whole face cast without no problem. So again, I became his friend. He became my family, and to be able to be part of this whole history with him, for me it was special. You know, great, because he had this background, that stories that he used to say and tell me. You know, I went to his house. We talked. I brought my own father. And we were talking about his history. He showed me plaques, frames, the army pictures. He showed me a bunch of stuff that I needed it to get myself involved in my head, so I could paint him the way he is. I give him again. He's older on the face part, and that helped me create my painting a little bit to be able to give him the effect that he's 92 but still strong and willing to continue with life, you know. Now he's now what, 97? He's still going. Wow.
So
for me it was special, you know. Yeah.
So for a piece this size, like a full body cast of somebody, like how long does it take to do something like this?
Well, sometimes it all depends on the idea, and also on the time, because if this is I did it, if I do it by section, then it takes longer, like a month or something like that. But this piece was like about a month and a half to be able to do it completely, and then I had to paint it. That's another week or so, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So Alexandra, I think you're going to ask the next question.
Yes. So if we can get it back in time a little bit with all of you, I was wondering if you could tell me what is the first memory of coming in contact with art? And this is a very open question. It can be any kind of art that you ever feel like you got intrigued by when growing up. So maybe we can start with Jose.
Well, I was 5 years old when my father brought us to the United States. So I almost considered myself a first-generation American, because at my age now, I've been living here over 70 years. But the library was my escape. I was the first of 6 children, but when we first got here, we were only three boys. I found books that were illustrated by N.T. Wyeth, the great adventures and the beautiful colors. And I lived there. I brought home book after book after book. And those days, elementary school was wonderful. We had little boxes with scenes inside, and they were like peepholes. And it was all very magic. It was like television and theater and art all at the same time. And we had a school library with all kinds of books. And so I fell in love with art and painting and drawing. I also lived in Manhattan, and my neighbors, I had neighbors who were in the theater. I didn't know who they were, but out of the garbage I threw out, there were magazines from the theater arts magazines. And there were pictures of the actors and the performers. And there was somebody who was an artist, and he used to throw out drawings. I carried all this stuff home. And in those days, I just put a trash can and on the sidewalk. I wanted to do this. I wanted to draw. I loved color. One day I saw 3 men on a scaffolding high above a building. And they were, in those days, they painted the advertisement in full color and probably 20 feet wide. I stood on the street and I watched this, totally captivated by what they were doing. I wanted to do that. I wanted to be part of that life. And so that life grew inside me. But I did as much as my father wanted me in shirt and tie. So when I got high school, I joined a bank. You know, that's what he wanted. He was the provider, and I wanted to make him happy, so I did that for a while. And my life kept changing. I kept going back to the art. Uh, I found art books in people's houses as they moved out. I brought those home. So my life revolved around the visuals and the stories and the mythology. And that became my life. It became my private life in a sense, because I was the firstborn and I was the oldest. My job was to make sure that my siblings did their homework. Because first of all, I was the person that became bilingual. And so at 12 years old, I was already a young adult. And it helped me. So the books were my way of dealing with my inner self, because my outer self was a second parent in a sense, as my father used to say, you know, you're the oldest, you're responsible. But that's where it all began. It all began with the library. And I always tell the kids, read, look, you know, this is important. It's not just watching the computer or watching the television. You have to read. And when I went into teaching, that's what I taught. I taught students with disabilities, and they were remarkable. I started looking at the world from a different point of view, through the eyes of someone who had been told you can't do this. And I thought, I'm going to prove wrong. You know, you're going to do it right. And I brought in plants, and I taught them about Da Vinci. I got them to see and read, and they would read. And they, you know, I was told they're never going to read. And they would tell me only men read, only women read, men don't read. And I thought, where did you get that one from? You know, and the misconception that children grow up with, which blocks their creativity. And that's that. We had nothing growing up, but the world was out there. I lived 2 blocks from Central Park, 2 blocks from the Museum of the Sea of New York. And whenever I went to escape, I would go out and stand by the museum, wait for a family with kids. And then, as they started going in, I would follow behind them so I looked like I was part of their group, because they would let a kid run by themselves. Once I was in the museum, I was free to roam. But it was life self-made in a sense. Everything that I learned, I went out, I grasped, I read, it was very rich.
So
And that
just
made me maybe, yes.
so summing up, just reading books and just being open to the world around you, constantly open and looking for inspirations. And I wonder if, because Michael is you grew up in New York as well.
Yeah.
So how did this work in your case? How did you get inspired by art growing up?
Well, used to be very difficult for my mom to raise us in New York. And one of the things that she would find for us to do to keep us occupied was give us crayons, paper, and clay, and things of that nature to keep us occupied and busy. And as I got a little older, I started looking at comic books and comic strips, and they were so much more powerful than the word to me, because it's visually, and it strikes you and it has meaning. And you have to find the meaning. Like Jose was saying, you read about that stuff, but it's visual first. And being born in New York, well, I had access to museums, to libraries, to Soho, all over the place. And in order to get away from my neighborhood, which is a kind of rough neighborhood, a good place to go was a museum or a library, because all the bad elements wouldn't go there. They'd hang out somewhere else. So I started doing sketching and stuff just for the hell of it, to see what it would look like. And everybody kept telling me, oh, you're not going to do nothing with it. It's just a hobby, or just keep yourself occupied. But I didn't see myself like that. I said, there's something here. And if I can take images and make somebody feel something about it, either through the symbols or through the image itself, I said, that's wonderful. You can't beat that. Now, I'm not saying that I was a good kid, okay? Because most of us grew up, it's rough neighborhood in New York, for the most part. So in order to avoid the neighborhood, go to the museums, go to the libraries, stuff like that. And then when you go to like the Museum of Natural History or the Museum of Modern Art, it's like, oh my God, these things are huge and they're so beautiful. And what message were they trying to get across? Then I'd end up in the library, figure it out. At the same time, always practicing and copying until I can figure out how I want to represent those things and make a statement about it, a statement about my life and how I grew up and how the government was and how the neighborhood was, things of that nature. And now I've been doing it, gee whiz, forever just about.
So again, books, people.
Books, yeah, you gotta read.
Go to
Books.
museums.
I got a
Rigoberto,
question.
excuse me.
Yeah, it's okay. I got a question for Michael. Did you, and Rigoberto, did you ever get the classic comic books?
I used to get all of those. They used to have the underground comic books back in the day during the Vietnam era. Wit's End and all these other crazy things that were done by the comic artists, and they were incredible statements. And they're all over the place, you know. And you get inspired by looking at somebody that can actually do something and make a change, make you feel, make you think. Other than that, you know, I don't see the purpose in art for me if it doesn't make you think. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
So Rigoberto, you also grew up in New York, if I'm not mistaken. So how did you get interested in art?
Yeah, I grew up in New York, and and the way I got involved with art was that my mother was always netting and things like that, right? Yeah, more or less, she's doing her thing. And I said, as a rough guy, I said, I want something rougher, you know? And I was still in high school, and I met my friend, John Ahearn. After through my cousin David, who introduced me to him. He was at the 148th and 3rd Avenue. He had like, we had a big glass in a storefront, and he was had this big deck or whatever it is out on the inside, and we were doing the work in the inside of the building. And the way I got inspired was to watch him do the little faces like this of people, me helping him, that kind of stuff. Then I asked him for material, stuff like that, so I could go to my own neighborhood, set up a table. And the idea about setting up a table, it was to get a friend of mine named Felix Rosado to get him involved with my work. He was my volunteer person. So I did a setup with the straws and the water and the whole thing. And I like the idea of getting a lot of folks of the neighborhood or surround you while you're in the table doing this work. That inspired me to continue what I'm doing but also it helps that this kind of work doesn't need to be indoors, it could be outdoors. And for many, many years, I set up a table out in the middle of this in Walton Avenue in front of my building. We asked permission for the landlord to put some nails up in the wall. And each piece that we did, we hang it up in the wall. And people said, see, that's me. That was yesterday. That was a week ago, that kind of stuff. And we kept on producing work like that. So also, I have you're talking about getting inspired. I got an uncle of mine who owns a factory, religious factory, Saint, Lassie, cats, all kinds of figurines, you know. And I was also working with him, creating molds and painting and doing copies of these plaster pieces. And that I had it in my blood somehow through my mother, that I kind of like the rough thing about creating work without having nothing and doing something. And to be able to have a person trust you, believe on you, say, you're gonna do what? Put straws up my nose and mix what? You know, they go, after a while, you become like a doctor, a person that they feel comfortable with, and they know nothing's gonna go wrong with it, you know? But imagine throughout the years doing these little things, and then you get this little kid saying, hey, I'm next, or when you gonna do me, or that kind of stuff, and you go, wait a minute. You know, I've been waiting a whole month, you know, or 6 months or something like that. They inspire you to continue. They inspire you to create more work. And you do this work, and the more you do, they do their PR work for you. They go out there, they talk about the work, they do things, and they bring, and they know that we're gonna be there on weekends, you know, outside, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, working, doing sculptures, and they go, oh, wow. I want to be cast too, you know. Why? Because they get their own sculpture for themselves too, you know. We keep one for the museum, galleries, stuff like that, and then the other one we give to them for being volunteer, helping us to create work. Imagine how many pieces out there, you know. People appreciate it.
I didn't know that you gave them to the participants as well. That's actually a really cool piece for them to have.
Well, Mr. Hall, right now in his home, he has a half a piece. Do you see half a piece like this? See that?
Oh yeah, I thought it was behind you when I pulled up the picture. I thought it was behind you.
He's always. I got a lot of pieces that I collect my own self, and I lend to museum, galleries, etc., etc. You know, so help people to help themselves and help me by bringing ideas and work, you know. Sometimes it's great.
So I was thinking for the next question, since this is Hispanic Heritage Month, just generally, and whoever wants to answer this first, you know, we can start off, but how has your Puerto Rican heritage inspired your work or influenced your work, do you think?
For me, you're talking about being in Puerto Rico or being, you know, living there or living here, in the sense that for me is to capture the doing like famous people in a way that like Ruth Fernandez, Joe Motoro, Joe Cuba, you know, to be able to make work with them and be able to use the whole body piece as a sculpture, like a musical thing that I did, a live band, you know, in sculpture. It inspired me to be able to produce work that it means is part of Puerto Rico, to bring it out in the open, in a sense. These people that I know, like Ruth Fernando, she's a real person. She's also a actor, a singer, a politics. You know, she's into the whole thing. You know, so I was kind of surprised to be able to knock on her door and to be able to do a sculpture of her. You never seen her before, right? But this is her in black and white. See, and to be able to go in Puerto Rico and do this now is amazing. You know. You never let yourself down. You go out there and knock on people's door and say, hey, this is my idea. I want to be able to do a sculpture. Are you in or you out? And they go, I'm in. She was great to be able to do the whole body, you know? The dress, like a wing, diamonds, and all that stuff. Right now, there's, I did 3 pieces of her. One is in the Orlando Museum, one is in Puerto Rico, and one is in New York. That's it, no more after that.
So I actually have a photo of one of the versions of her. So just the torso.
Yeah, torso, yes.
And it's, I mean, it's beautiful. It really
is.
It
is beautiful, yes.
I really love the
flower piece.
I don't know how you call it professionally, but it's a very petite work, very beautifully done.
You should see the way she wears these flowers in her hair and these dresses, fancy dresses, beautiful with diamonds and rhinestones and everything. And you go, wow, what is this? This is fancy. So I borrowed a dress and I took a couple pictures and I did it, you know, but I said, it's too many rhinestones, so let me cut it down. So that was it, you know. I didn't want it to steal from the face and stuff like that, you know, the energy, you know. And I was, look at that. She is beautiful. You know, she passed away.
Oh,
not
I'm
long
sorry.
ago.
It's awful.
Wow. Great piece.
Yeah.
I have one in my, I collect one of my own pieces every time. You know? Yes. Anything else? Anybody else?
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead, Jose.
Jose.
Actually, you know, mine was a fluke. I didn't know any Hispanic artists, painters, anyway. Two flukes. One that I didn't know Rigoberto, but I saw a publication, and he had a piece that he did with a young man holding a long staff and rats around the base. And I thought, this is incredible. You know, and it stayed in my mind. I then lost track of this man, and it wasn't until we got together and I went to his home with Angel Rivera, our leader, and I said, I saw your work before I even knew who you were. I was so taken by the fact that these kids would go out and with a staff, and he was like a young warrior in shorts, holding this huge staff, standing so proud, and all these dead rats around his feet. You know, I was very taken. And the second flute was, I had a little shop in Little Italy in the Bronx, and there was a publication called AHA, Association of Hispanic Arts. And they came to the shop, and one of my paintings struck the woman very much, and she photographed it. Well, I get a publication of AHA. There's my portrait, and all of a sudden I see that the Museum of Puerto Rican Museum in Manhattan has a show of a man by the name of Oyer, and I had never heard of this man. So I go to the museum, and there's all these oil sketches of bananas, and the painting is a little child dead on a kitchen on a table, and it's a beautiful, beautiful painting. I just stood there. It must have been an hour just looking at all the details, the cat and rafters, the bananas hanging. I was so enthusiastic. To me, it was the best painting I'd ever seen. Everything I'd ever seen was European. All of a sudden, this was a Puerto Rican man who worked for Spain. He was a court painter at one time. And what I found out is that he went back to Puerto Rico and died kind of poor, but he went back so he could teach. And to me, that was very impressive. So I had many years ago, I went to Puerto Rico. I went to the museum to see it, and of course, it was renovating, so I never got to see it. But I saw the original in New York City, so that was mine. You know, now I knew that I was part of something that I knew nothing about. That I was Hispanic, that I was creative. You know, I spent all of my life doing art, but never realizing that it was coming out of my Hispanicness. I looked at the world differently from that moment on. Yeah. That's where it all began.
Great. I like it.
Okay, Michael, do you wanna answer the question?
Yeah. As far as my heritage is involved, I didn't know there was that many well-known Hispanic artists from where I grew up. The only way I got to know about them was going to the museums and reading books and stuff like that, where you would see Picasso and all these other guys from Spain. I never knew they were Puerto Rican artists. So I did a little research, as I used to cut school sometimes, and I would go to the libraries and stuff like that, and I would look up the history of our people, and the Taino Indians and the Arawaks and all the people from the Caribbean islands. And when you look at the stuff, the images were so powerful and so universal, I just had to use them in my work. Now, I didn't realize at the time that because of my heritage, all of these things were so important to me. But once you start looking into the images and what they mean and why they were used, it was a completely beautiful language and a beautiful culture. And it just inspired me to keep looking for more of that stuff and incorporate it in my paintings as far as little symbols here and there. And as far as the social meaning that I have, well, growing up in New York, it's a rough place. The society was kind of weird, and you make fun of it. You become sarcastic in a sense. You make fun of people. People will call each other names, even though it was, stupid. You brujo, you're a witch or a sorcerer. Just making fun. And you didn't look into why those words were so important or what they really meant. But then I started getting more involved in that, and found out that my grandfather used to have a printing press, one of them old-fashioned printing presses, that he make his own greeting cards. And then he would make furniture in little crates and sell those. And I said, wow, that's an incredible thing that he would take something out of nothing and make something out of it. And he couldn't write to save his life, but he took up calligraphy, and boy, oh boy, the work that he did was incredible. And then I looked and I said, well, is there such a thing that we're born with this? I think we're all born with it. It's just that you need somebody to help you open it up and inspire you. And the more I read and the more I looked towards that, I found out that my mom used to do pottery. And I never knew that. Now I collect some of her stuff. And all my brothers do art. One is a tattoo artist, but his artwork is incredible. All of them do that. In the neighborhood, when we would have, what do you call that? And instead of getting into a basketball game and ending up in a fight of a stickball or some stupid thing like that, I'd go into the places where they were doing crafts, where they're doing the art, and start creating something. And people would say, well, you got something there. I said, yeah. Who do you know that is Hispanic and is really making it or doing anything with it? I ended up in college, and the teacher tells me art history, art appreciation. Go show me something, see what you can do. And they gave us an assignment. So I went and copied a painting from Museum of Natural History, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It was Aristotle contemplating the bust of Homer. But I didn't have the equipment or supplies to do that kind of stuff. So I took crayons and pencils or whatever I had and sat there and sketched out what I believed it to be. I handed it in. The teacher said, well, you have something here. Maybe you should take up art. I said, gee whiz, I'm already in college. The war's going on. You tell me to take up art. He says, well, take a chance. See what you like about it. I haven't given up on it since. I mean, the visually across from where my ancestors came and meanings behind it, and to use it in a social meaning, I got hooked on it real fast. I couldn't help myself. I mean, I can do, portraits and little doggies and poodles, but I said, so can everybody else. Now let me do something when you look at it, you go, oh man, what's that? What does it mean? Make them think, make them look. My heritage has a lot of symbols.
Wow, great. I had a little, something more or less like what you're talking about, but I had it with the folks themselves. And I said to, when I do the faces and all that stuff, they go, and now I'm gonna put it in the gallery in the museum. They go, but I'm not famous, I'm nobody, what are you putting, who I am, no, you are special, you are unique, It's important for you to be part of the world out there. And what I noticed of that was that the neighborhood and me and the museum, we kind of connected right there. So the neighborhood got to know the galleries and museum, and the neighborhood says to themselves, I am, somebody. The person said, look, let's go to the opening. And one of the things about it was that me and my partner, once we rented a school bus, and we loaded it up with the neighborhood people. We did the molds and casting and all that stuff. We put it up in the building. And we went to the art show, the gallery, and we let them out, and they got to see the art for the first time. Some of these people said, I've never been in a gallery. I never saw these things before. It's part of what you're saying about museum and gallery, getting to know things, you know? It's out there. You just gotta go reach out and learn things, you know?
Yeah, we had a lot of great artists where we would sketch it on the streets and
Yeah.
play
Oh,
all
wow.
kind of games and the walls and everything, you know.
Yeah.
But as far as having somebody to help and inspire you, it was hard. It was hard when I was growing up.
Well, when I'm doing it, you get these kids involved and these grown-ups, and they get the ideas and they help you to think about things, you know. And again, you don't need to tell them to they want to volunteer, no more. They just say, I'm in, just, you know, do my space, you know, that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah, see, what to me, art, if people don't understand it, it's first a craft. You got to learn to work with the equipment to get your point across. So I always think of it as 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration.
Yes.
And then sometimes when you're finished, you're not satisfied with it. But you did the work to do it. And just getting involved in it is like going into another world. And all the outside world, all the craziness doesn't matter.
Well, that's one of the things about what I do. I go out and I perform in different areas, like Brazil, German, Rotterdam. You know, I go places and I set up. They you know, set me up with a studio in the classroom or whatever it is, and I do my work. And if we got a month to do things, we got a wall, we got everything. We do short with helpers and everything. We do everything at the same time, and we hang it up and we walk away, and people appreciate it after that, you know, because they are from the neighborhood, you know.
Yeah.
Kind of experience for me, you know. I like your stuff too, you know.
Hey, you do some good facial features on them sculptures. They're amazing.
Yes, I
feel
know.
that. Really
So we've got a question from the audience, and I just want to say also thank you to Noelia. She does all of our translating, has done all of the translating for all of the videos and the posts and everything. She's a employee of ours. She's always been supportive of the project. She's also Puerto Rican. So this is a question from her. Alexandra, if you want to read.
Yes, of course. Again, thank you, Noelia. What is something important or particular for you about being a Hispanic artist in the United States that you would want us to know about?
Jose? Or no? Who?
You.
Anybody who wants
anybody.
to start.
Anybody who wants to start.
Oh, okay. I'll give somebody else a break at the moment, yeah.
I'd like to answer Angel put a question. Where do we think this is all going? When the group started together about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, we didn't know where we were going. I didn't know Michael. I didn't know Rigoberto. I didn't know all these wonderful artists who were part of the group. Slowly, things began to happen. Angel was very particular about what we sent out to the museums, brochures, biographies. Everything had to be a certain way. And he, being the youngest man in the group and the leader, had a brilliant mind. He made sure that everybody's biography, he went to people's homes. He looked through their old pictures, through their biographies. I remember with Michael, and he kept saying, you have all this, you have all that. You have so many paintings. He would just go through all our files, and he would put this together. And he was very conscious of what he wanted. What he wanted was for us to move forward. We started out with museums, and it was incredible. No one had an idea. We were doing weekend shows. He said, no more weekend shows. Too much work. Let's put this energy into showing the public who we are. And it was, everybody worked. Everybody added something. And would have long conversations about each other's work and how important it was. And so we built this very strong unit of artists. And where's it going? Well, we have several options in the future. I mean, this was unexpected. COVID brought us television, to our computers, to Zoom. Everything that we did, we kept changing as we went along. And it was always positive. All of a sudden, we have these artists who are, I'm probably the hardest one to deal with as far as technology is concerned. He always comes in, he sets it up for me, he says, this is what you do, this is what you don't do, and it works. But he has the mind and the creativity to be able to lead. And I can do physical labor, he can do mental. And we all have talents, and the talents come together, and that's what made us such a good, strong group. All of a sudden, I'm meeting the top master painters from Puerto Rico and sculptors. And I sit in a room in a hotel listening to these masters talk about what they do and what I felt like a kid in a candy shop. I just sat there with my mouth open because I found who I am. And that was a very enriching situation because now I am three cultures in one. And I understand them. And when Michael speaks about the Taínos and the Arawaks, all of a sudden I thought, we're not just dumb people, we're smart. And we are creative. And we are colonized and we have gone through hell and we have survived. And our art shows who we are, how we think, how we read that. And that is a great, great gift. And I thank all the artists and Angel for introducing me to all this, and thanks to you guys too as well. And Daniel and Alexandra for bringing us together and doing this wonderful favor for us.
So Jose, because we actually just got a question that relates very much to what you were just talking about. So I wanted to kind of follow up and ask it, but I want all of you to feel free to answer it as well. The question is, as a Puerto Rican designer and artist who is pretty Americanized and doesn't feel as connected to my heritage, do you have some suggestions to better connect to it?
Jose? Is it for Jose?
For
Jose
whoever
can,
wants to.
start. Whoever wants to start. But Jose was just talking about those, the identity that he kind of discovered in himself. So I thought that it's very, very much related to the question. But I want all of you to feel free to answer. And thank you for the question as well.
Yes. For me, it was when I discovered, who I was inside. It was kind of confused and lost in a sense that do I want to make something better or create something better that is me, that is part of Puerto Rican and stuff like that. And I say yes, and that's the reason why I took a trip to Puerto Rico to learn about, because I grew up in the Bronx, but I went to Puerto Rico to be able to get things done over there as a Puerto Rican artist, or a New Yorker artist, So I decided to set up my own studio and do some work there. And it was kind of hard for the people to understand why I was doing all this kind of work, and then to explain to me, what was going on. But I kept, pushing forward, and eventually they discovered who I was and where I come from. So yes, I did a half-an-hour show on TV there, talking about all the 22 pieces that I created, plus the Lady in Black. I call it Rufinande. I did all these pieces, and I found myself as a Puerto Rican that I could do it there too, you know, as my background coming there and say, well, these are all Puerto Rican, why not? Let's do something with them and let's see what they could give me back, you know? And they gave me a lot back, you know. They said that was great, me being part of this whole art show and the gallery and stuff like that. And they learned about art themselves, you know, the neighborhood. It was kind of local neighborhood, you know, in Aguadilla, you know, I grew up there, so it's a small town there. So I tried there and I tried in Ponce, but it was like I was always pushing forward. And people say, don't do that because nobody likes you to, you know, to be pushing, you know. They will, when I was going to do the sculpture of Rue Fernandez, first thing they said, do me a letter explaining the whole process. I said, I don't think so. Tell me where she's at and I go there person. I introduce myself and dealing with politics or a singer or an actor, who she was. It helped me because she did they call it a Museo de Música in Ponce. What she did was she had my sculpture there. It was a bunch of pieces and also her furniture. So she let a piano and all this other thing she did there. So she did open a museum in Ponce, but I don't know if it's still open or not, you know, that's kind of stuff. Yeah, I figure when it comes to figure out who's I am inside, I'm an artist. I do work. I love work. I love creating sculptures that nobody's seen before, you know, including me, you know. Yeah. Jose, your turn.
I thought it's Michael, because I just gave
Michael
away
turn?
the suggestion.
All right.
Take over.
Michael, your turn.
Actually, I didn't hear, as Jennifer said, because the voice was blocked, so it was better when Rigoberto was talking.
Oh, yeah.
Did Michael hear everything clearly and he can answer?
I heard most of it, but my computer, you know, kind of wacko so fast.
Yeah, it seems like you've been dipping in and out.
Yeah, but when they talk about doing my work and it being of Hispanic heritage, I think there wasn't a lot of that when I was growing up, because I grew up in a neighborhood that was 98% black, and then Hebrews, and then everybody else, and we were like 1%. So what we fought for identity was just to be recognized as we're Puerto Rican. But no, you're not Puerto Rican, you're a New Rican. I said, I don't care. I'm a Rican, you know? So no matter what I do, all my work I consider part of my heritage, and that I'm showing it by using the symbols and the messages that we as Puerto Ricans who grew up in New York had to deal with. And that would show that. But as far as being influenced by neighborhood artists, there weren't very many of us, not at all. It was considered a sissy thing to sit around and paint and sketch, that you're not going to do nothing. Why don't you be a lawyer or a doctor or something like that? And I just couldn't get there. I just couldn't get there. My biggest escape was art. And once somebody recognized it and they said, well, maybe you can do something with that, I said, okay. When the first work that I sold, I said, I'm on my way. I'm going to do something with this, because somebody understood what I was trying to get across. But it's not so much that I did the work that I'm doing now, which has more meaning for me and more symbolism of my heritage. Back then it was, oh, you do a doggy, you do somebody's profile, you do a little landscape and people like it. And then I started meeting some Puerto Rican artists, and they're doing stuff that they would do back in the island. there were sculptures of plátanos and guineos and stuff like that. They said, that's your heritage. I said, no, I said, that could be part of your heritage. There's nothing wrong with it. But for me, God makes the best guineos. How am I going to twist that around to make you see how I really feel about it or how I look at it? So when you see it, you go, oh, now that's something different. I can understand where he's coming from. So the whole thing was to take my heritage, and it's like being in the military. You learn to camouflage it a little bit, but still people recognize what it is if you put the message in there correctly. It's just like a Rigoberto, when he does the sculpture, you look at the face. That's a face of a Black Hispanic woman. And people are going to say, oh, we didn't know there were Blacks in Puerto Rico. Hey, we got Chinese, we got Greeks, we got everybody over there. It's like a big asopao, you know? Everything's in there. It's how you mix it and how you flavor it. So when somebody tastes it, they go, wow, that's different, but it's still part of your heritage. So you don't lose it.
Yes, I had the same thing when I was creating different work in different neighborhoods. Different neighborhood, there were like Blacks only. And I said, and there was one kid came by and says, why are you doing always Black people? And I go, well, I'm right now in this neighborhood. Then after a while, I moved to another neighborhood, like a white neighborhood, or Brazilian neighborhood, or rather than Europe, you know, neighborhood. And I do these people from different areas. So it is kind of funny when people think, you know, they go, well, you don't do only that kind of people, Hispanic people, you mix, you know, and it helps a lot to explain to somebody who don't know how the process works and who's doing the work and why and all the stuff that's going on, you know. And you opening the eyes and the ears, and they learn things themselves, and they go, I get it now, I get the art now. It all depends on the neighborhood or what ideas or who you're doing, that kind of stuff. So they get it, you know. You know what I mean. So they learn themselves to appreciate the work even more. Because,
and from that, you learn more too.
Oh, I learned a lot. I was in the 42nd Art Project. I was remember those downtown, there was all these X movies and stuff like that, and what they did was they had like maybe 60 artists to decorate the area. They closed all the peep shows and all that stuff. And I had like what it was, a sandwich store, like a Subway sandwich store, a front, a window and all that stuff. I had like a studio, and every single day, all the way until 9 o'clock, we were creating work, meeting people, talking about the art, talking about who we're gonna cast. And they went like that for 6 months. And that was kind of nice to be able to be like a foot soldier, creating your own thing, you know, work there. So it was kind of nice decorating the area because it's a lot of dirt around.
Yeah.
That was nice. Anyhow, who's next?
So we're kind of coming up on time for everything. I know it went by quickly and it was a lot of fun, but so I was thinking for a final question, we'd take another question from the audience.
You never saw my, that's the Mermaid. She was only 2.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, that's nice. That's my daughter, 2.5 years old.
Oh, wow.
And to be able to cast her, I was playing with her all the time, playing with her. And she says, and I put in the little powder here, put in the little straws in there. And for at least 2 weeks, I did that. And then eventually, I did the whole sculpture. I did the whole body, not without the tail, you know, as a mermaid. So she was part of the whole. She loved the whole thing, you know. 2.5 years old, and that was the youngest person I touched. No more after that.
I'm pretty sure there are a lot of parents out there who would appreciate some advices from you how to keep 2.5-year-olds not moving
stationary for really any period of time, let alone like.
I just realized
one of the things was that
Might be.
people ask questions like that, you know. They say, "How can I do this?" You know, and you say, "Well, you could buy the supply yourself and do it." You know? It was kind of nice. But one of the things they love is women that when they are pregnant, right? They like to do this belly thing, you know, and they say, "Can you do the belly? You know, this is my first child, whatever it is," and you say, "I don't do those things," you know, and they go, I was in Puerto Rico once, and the lady argued with me for a while, and then her husband came over and she said, "Can you really do this part?" They asked my partner said no, and then they asked me, I said no. She came back again, and I said, "Okay, I do it." I went back to Puerto Rico, I did the belly, the next day she had a baby. Well, that was it. The thing that she had when she was pregnant, it was driving her nuts. It was crazy, you know, done. But I did, I done many crazy stuff, you know. I done a sculpture of a bus with people in it. That's like 9 feet high, 29 feet long, with people in there. That was something to do in Brazil, yeah. And I did some African people there too. It was amazing to be able to get involved with the neighborhood and did this. I did this crown. It was like 7 churches involved, and everybody's holding hand. I'll show you something here that I did. That I beat that one. It was 7 people in Brazil, but over here I had a group of people that I did, and it was part of the Winter Park project. You know, I mean, not Winter Park. Yeah, it was a thing with Mr. Hall and everything. I show you Mr. Hall right now. And Mr. Hall is in the middle here. See that? You can see him. Yeah, he's right there. So it was the mayor was involved, the community was involved, David was involved, everybody was involved, and I had a mix of hands and Puerto Rican whites and everybody involved to be able to do a crown of hands as a project to give it to the school, the place, you know. So it was kind of nice to be able to get everybody involved, you know. Something that when you want to do something big, you could do something, get everybody involved. But when you're doing something small for little kids, you do something small with classes and stuff like that, and they appreciate it. Plus, you get the parents to be helpers and involved with this whole art thing, you know. And they get to know all these things. Yeah.
So one participant asked for more pictures from the artist. So I'm going to go through a quick preview of some of Michael's work.
Yes, why not? I'd like to see more.
Yeah, and then if you want to, Alexandra, do you want to ask the final question from, I think it was Jose Sanchez?
Yes, let me see now.
Also, it's the same, that's the same figure that you were talking about in this painting, or a very similar figure.
And also,
gentleman with the big top hat.
There he is, 2 faces.
So I just wanted to let everybody know that we are still in the project. So every Tuesday and Thursday, we are releasing a short video that is made from longer oral history interview. So on Tuesday, we had Yvonne Galanes, and on Thursday, yesterday, we had a video with Jose, and we're gonna have a video for Michael, for Rigoberto, and there is more of their artwork, and also there are going to be links to full interviews. So of course the full oral history interviews, there's even more art and more talk about details. So please check back with our Facebook because for the entire Hispanic Heritage Month we are releasing more content related to the project, to the Keepers of Heritage.
And also in the posts, we link to their Facebooks as well. So they post their art as well as they're doing it also.
Yes, yes. So yes, just a concluding question from Joanne. How did the artists continue to find inspiration for their craft for so many years?
Uh-oh, that's my dog.
Well, I'm gonna join this one because having lived in New York City, Monday was my day off. And I used to take my pad and pencil and walk the city for a whole day, drawing people and situations. Then I would take them to my studio and I would do painting. And it was always enriching. I'd go to the park and sit and watch people sitting down or walking away. And I got to the point where, yeah, these people were people that I read about, I knew about, but I was inspired by. I'm a bit of a humanist, and I get very carried away by the pain of the world. So I paint what makes me feel uh, this pain. And one of the women that did an interview for the Bronx Museum, she said, "What's the inspiration?" And I said, the subject creates the mood." And she said, "So you're a moodist?" And I said, "That's a new one for me." But yes, the people, the situation create the mood, the color, everything. Everything comes from the subject. It's easier to do it that way. Somebody on a bus, on a rainy day, and in Manhattan, you know, uh, it it moves me to look. This was a man, on the street. That was and the buildings. Eventually, I put in my two children in the center of the painting, and I was inspired. I felt somebody asked me where the bottle was for the man, and I said, "What makes you think that everybody who's this despondent is a drunkard? There's 1,000 reasons why this man is in pain." And I said, you can't make those judgments. I went through a rough time, and I put my kids in. And okay, this was a reminder
Oh,
of
sorry.
Tabaquero, you know, the tobacconists in Puerto Rico. My grandfather had a little barn full of tobacco leaves. My first taste of tobacco was when they were pulling out the veins. I was about 3 years old. I couldn't use my fingers, so I used my teeth. So I got the taste of tobacco. So I did this as almost a family self-portrait with the tobacconist. Uh, and this was very inspiring because I was looking back at what I remember as a child, and the visits I did to Puerto Rico, to my grandfather's home. This was my inspiration. This was my Hispanic heritage life, which came to life when I started looking at the world around me. Uh, so yes, okay. That's my sculpture. That's called Fallen Angel. This is Fallen Angel 2. The first one, uh, I left upstate New York, and then I got to Florida, and I had to recreate one. So yeah, that's all. This is in my studio. There's a huge painting behind it that I didn't paint, but I went to a gallery and I saw it, and there was an art teacher who painted his wife's cousin, and I fell in love with the painting. So it was my first major acquisition. These are metal sculptures, wood sculptures, paintings, sculptures. This is this is called Dan's Light Fantastic. This is all roots. I love natural wood, and so the world around me is my inspiration. Everything I see is inspired. I have a big garden, so I just walk around and pick up stuff.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right. And then
Paintings.
And then just some other pieces that we have that I have photos of to kind of show like your kind of general style.
So you're gonna have these photos part of the show right now?
Well,
So
so yeah, so the posts, you know, we just basically post the video, and in there, there's a little bit of, you know, like the artist's paintings and stuff. We don't, when we got these photos, we just use them as material for the videos. So we don't, yeah, and I don't want to, you know, just post a bunch of your artwork. That's why we refer back to your tag
yes,
pages, so that, you know,
Yeah.
if somebody's interested, they can find your content afterwards. So
correct.
does anybody else want to talk about inspiration? Because I can pull up some of your work.
Well, the inspiration for me was the see this piece here, the factory. This is Shorty. This is part of the when I was working in the factory creating work, and then in the other page, over here, you see my uncle with Rufinande. Again, it's the it's, oh wait a minute, this over here. Right here, see this? See it?
Oh, I actually have that on here. So hang on, I got a full version of
Oh
it.
wow, look at that. That's
Yeah.
a beautiful piece right there.
Yeah.
See that?
Hmm.
Wow.
And so that's
And
your
it's-
uncle who owned the sculpture
The
factory.
factory, yes, yes.
Hmm.
He used to own a factory of doing the, so for my background, my history, it started with the family in a sense, you know?
Hmm.
So, wow. So I did him, my uncle, with a sculpture of Rufinande for the, as a sculpt. I did it in white just to give it the factory effect, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, sculpture before being painted.
Yes.
Hmm.
So these pieces are in the Met Brewer Museum, you know? These
Oh.
two pieces. So that's what they are. They gave me a nice book. If you could see the book here,
Hmm.
you know? This is the book with all these sculptures.
Pieces of, yeah.
Can you see the book or not?
No, now I can.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, now we can. Now we can. Yeah.
Okay. See the book and all these pieces. So this came out now. So see,
Hmm.
that's what it's all about. You know? So, all my life, I've been trying to improve myself by looking for better things to do and creating. For me, as a sculptor, it takes all kinds of material. It takes burlap pipes, tubings, wires, iron, burlap, cement, fiberglass. It takes resin, rubber molds, all kinds of rubber mold to be able to. So when I'm doing a sculpture like Mr. Hall, I do it in plaster, hydrochlor, different cement, and after the whole process is done on white, I have to be able to make a mold of the whole thing, and it goes on from there by creating the rubber mold, and then we do the fiberglass copy, make it a lighter, stronger, you know, pieces like this could weight like 25 pounds with some kind of screws and like big screws in the back and the bottom, so you can put nuts on it. So this is the reason why Mr. Hall was heavy, to be able to put it out in front of the building so people could see it right there real close. So I go there and I touch it up, paint it up a little bit, clean it a little bit, and walk away. This is Uncle Tito. Uncle Tito was from the liquor store. And I used to see him every day, and I used to work in Chambers Street in the liquor store. Again, you learn to drink also. So did all these liquors and all that stuff. That's a beautiful piece. And one of the things about these bottles, I had to cut them in half so I could make a mold out of it, you know?
Mm. Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Wow, yes, it's nice.
So I'm going to show a couple of these, and then I was thinking we could finish up with Michael talking about, what's inspires his work, and I'll do the same thing. I'll do a slideshow of his work real quick.
Why not? Sounds good.
Yeah. So Let me pull up. Yeah.
Also, there was a question for Michael. So if you'd like to introduce this to your answer, it was a question from Alejandro. Because he compliments the level of honesty in your work, and he would like to know your thoughts on the necessity of being honest when working on art. So, Dan, are you going to show Michael's?
Yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
sorry. I'm trying to pull it up.
So if Michael could talk a little bit about the inspiration and also the level of honesty when working on.
Okay.
Here we go.
Oh, Michael was not here. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Michael is not here.
I think let's hope that he comes back soon. How about that? We'll give it a couple minutes.
You seen the book, the Sub Bronze Hall of Fame?
Yeah, that was, you talk about it in the interview. So we have a recording of it, of you going through it.
Great.
So
and do you see that the back thing, the way it is?
Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah.
So that
I love.
Yeah.
There's a couple like action shots that I think Angel sent me about you doing these like plaster casts for large groups of people.
Yes.
And it's really, really great and instructive of like how the process works and everything like that. And the clip that's going to come out, spoiler alert, is it kind of goes through your process of how to do like multiple people doing these castings, because some of them are almost like scenes, like one of the ones, I'm gonna hang on, I'm gonna pull up because I love this piece of yours. Is obviously the one showing is not your piece currently, but this So with
Dan, when you're looking for the piece, I just wanted to let everybody know that we are recording it. So because I'm aware that we're a little bit over the time. It was supposed to be a 1 hour program, but that it's just, we could easily have a full day with our artists and it would still not be enough. So for anybody who has to go, we are recording this program, so it will be available. And I encourage you to check back with us for the videos and for links for the full interview. But we have the work Dan found it. So
yes, so love this one because it's a good representation of these like group scenes. The one in the video that you talk about specifically is a group of kids playing basketball. So, but this is one that I really like because it's a group of kids doing jump rope. The thing I love about the photo in front is I presume this is years later and these are the same kids that are jumping rope in the background.
Yes, that shot was taken by Marty Cooper, a photographer, a friend of ours. And the idea was to have the girls, these are the same live girls, so she posed them as the sculpture there. And again, we did it in the in Dawson Street, and the neighborhood that we put this at, it was they call it Banana Street because it's curved like a banana, but we had a nice wall to put these pieces on there. And reason, I think last year we went up, took them down, repaired them a little bit because the paint job it's been like 20 years, so we had to touch them up and fix them up all over again and put them up. They're back in the same place, and the owner of the building loves them, the neighborhood loves them, so we had to put them back. Yeah, and the girls, we still talk to them. They're big, wonderful family, kids, and everything. Wow.
Okay, well, so I guess we gave Michael a little time. I don't know what happened with his computer, but I think that's a good place to stop. Does anybody have any last comments or anything they want to add in here? I'm going to finish off with, since Michael didn't get a chance to.
Did you see the three boys, one on top of the other? The photo there?
I don't.
Do you have that one?
I'd have to look.
Girls, one on top of the other. See no evil, hear no evil. Like speak no evil.
I don't think I have it.
That's part of the live band with the Rufinande and the John Motoro Yokuba, and the girls are like a totem pole in the side. In the end, you know, that's a nice photo to have. You know. I think I did send it by email, stuff like that.
Let me see.
It's on my personal,
Is this the one you're talking about?
Yes, maybe, but it's more farther. You can see the whole thing.
Okay.
With them. Okay. Same picture, same, but it's in the back, you know.
Yeah.
But that is a beautiful. You know, these pieces right now, they are in the Orlando Museum.
Oh,
in
great.
Storage, you know.
Okay.
And they belong to me. So,
yeah.
You know. My collector bought this the Mermaid and the Lady in Black from the Polk County Museum that I had, and she lent it to the Orlando Museum. So that was something special for me, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it's been nice talking to you guys, you know.
Yeah.
Great.
So it's been a lot. It's been a lot of fun. And look forward to. Thank you. And also, Angel said congratulations to everybody and thanks for hosting this.
Thank you.
And also, thank you, Angel, for making sure that the artists could get onto Zoom and everything okay. And thanks for hooking us up with this group, and also for answering all of my emails and questions to do the video series. So
yes, I just wanted to pitch in that because Jose talked about Angel. And for those of you who don't know, Angel is a leader of Keepers of Heritage and also an amazing artist. So we're also going to have a video dedicated to Angel, and we have an interview with Angel. So because some of you may not know it, we know because we spent so much time the past few months working on the project. But thank you, Angel, for that. And please check back with our website for more videos and more interviews.
So if you, in the future, if you want to do this again, like not me and stuff like that, but somebody else, and maybe anybody like me who asks questions about things or not.
Yeah, I think we've been trying to figure out a time to do one in Spanish. So that's one that we have talked about doing. If not, I'd just love to do another one with another group of artists.
Yeah.
Later on. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna close out with just showing some of Michael's art, since he didn't make it through the entire presentation, and yeah. So I think that's it. Thanks everybody for coming.
Thanks.
Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to check back on our Facebook page every Tuesdays and Thursdays until mid-October. Also, make sure to check out the Keepers of the Heritage exhibit going on right now at the Polk Museum. It ends on October 25th. Links to the exhibit are in the posts as well. So hopefully you get a chance to check that out and enjoy our content for the rest of the month.
If you have any questions about anything, if you will forget the name of any institution that we just mentioned, if you cannot find any website, please feel free to reach out to us, to the History Center. My name is Alexandra Chichelo. That was Daniel Bradfield. So you can email us, feel free to call, and we're gonna point you into the direction to make sure that you can enjoy this amazing art.
I like I have a museum in New York, Alexander Bonin, right? And I got people who work with the internet and stuff like that, and I would like the idea of passing all this stuff to them. So as soon as I see it, I don't know, to be able to do that, you know.
Yeah, well, so the videos started this Tuesday with Vaughn. We had Jose yesterday, and Michael came back.
Good, Michael, yeah.
And there's Michael.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank Alexander Mary. Thanks for the for the crew.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
I'm back.
All right. So, well, you know what? We were wrapping up, but I feel like it's only fair to ask Michael the question. So, Alexandra, if you want to ask Michael the question, and that's what we'll end on.
Yes, so we're gonna end with Michael. The question was about your inspiration, but also your honesty in art. How important do you think, what are your thoughts on the necessity of being honest when working on art? That was a question for Michael.
Well, I've always believed that the truth, people would always say, will set you free. And I don't believe in that. I think the truth makes you free. And by being able to be free and truthful, it's more profound than being a deceiver. So when I do work, I try to do the work that strikes at the heart of what I'm trying to get across. And sometimes being honest is brutal. But if you're not honest with yourself or with your work, then what purpose does it serve? I mean, you can be like one of these guys just paints a silly tree all day long, different colors. Well, if that's what you believe the truth to be, well, I don't know. For me, I want people to look at the work and for it to strike them either good or bad, that it has some kind of meaning to them, that emotionally they want to look into it and try to find out why this is so. Why does it affect them so? And being honest about things has that effect on people. And like I've always said, you know, the images that I pick, people say, oh, they're political, they're this, they're religious. Hey, I always say, you know, sacred cows make the best hamburger meat, okay? So I'm going to do it. And if they don't like it, I love it. Any kind of honest reaction that I can get from being honest myself, I think is the greatest thing that I can do.
Wow.
The more graphic ones you don't have, okay? Those are specially hidden for other people.
Okay. All right. Well, I feel like that's a great place to end. So I'm
Yes.
just going to show the last couple pieces. And I wanted to say again, thanks so much to our panelists. Thanks so much to Angel for hooking all this up for us. And thanks to Noelia for doing all this translating and everything for the videos. The videos are available, captioned in both English and Spanish. So make sure that you check back next Tuesday. We'll have another video. And every Tuesday and Thursday for the next 3 weeks. And make sure to check out the Keepers of the Heritage exhibit in at the Albin Palashik.
And I think what you guys are doing is a beautiful thing to put this out there for people to see.
It's been really great to get to highlight this work with you guys. It's been really great.
I love it. I check you in every day, you know, if I have a chance. Also, I was going to say that I'm also in a Wikipedia, in case you're wondering. You can put it down, you know.
Okay. Yeah, we can include. We'll include that in the next when we host your video.
Yeah. Okay. No problem.
Sounds good. All right.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Thank you, everybody,
Thank you.
so much,
Yes.
and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.